tell me how the rehearsal went yesterday. Run me through what you were doing and how it all went.
Yesterday we rehearsed in the morning with Their Majesties and rehearsed the second part of the ceremonial, and then in the afternoon, it was quite a long day, we did a full walkthrough. So that means that we started with the processions that had formed up outside the building, and then went straight through the entire liturgy. And today's a dress rehearsal. It's a run through. It'll be very smooth. Yesterday we were stopping and working on some details. It went really well.
Which bit are you most worried about, given the complex nature of what has to happen?
I don't think I'm really worried about any of it. I feel a bit for those people for whom this is a first or a very unusual visit to Westminster Abbey, and they find themselves right in the sort of spotlight of the stage of a coronation, having to move in a space they don't know. There are an awful lot of people moving quite quickly with an awful lot of startling pieces of regalia. It will be extraordinary to see. It needs to be precise.
How did the King seem to you?
The King was relaxed and very gracious, took time to thank all the people around him who are making this happen. So whilst he hasn't a huge burden on him, there's a lot for him to do, he doesn't give the sense of being a man who's really anxious about this. Not at all.
And how were the children?
It was wonderful to have them here, and I could see them watching with huge interest.
In the past, there have been issues with St Edward's crown, getting it the right way round. You have to handle it. What's the secret? What is your secret?
Our secret is not to tie bits of thread to it because someone removes them, but just to practice picking it up and handing it to someone, and having so rehearsed the number of movements that it is the right way round by the time it gets to where it needs to be.
And you've had replicas to help with that?
So we are still working with replicas of the two crowns. From yesterday we started rehearsing with the real rod, the real sceptre, which was just extraordinary.
Can you give me a sense of the scale of this ceremony, the spectacle of it?
It's actually quite hard to do that because everything is on a really startling scale. I'm the Dean of Westminster. I'm used to ceremony on a national level. Even I think this is pretty jaw-dropping. You have the most extraordinary ceremonial dress. You have the most extraordinary pieces of regalia being carried through the Abbey. The music is absolutely spine-tingling. There are a lot of processions.
This display and show of riches with all the regalia, how does that sit with you in a cost of living crisis?
There have been a number of decisions, quite significant decisions, all along the way, which mean that the cost of this is far below the expenditure in 1953, which actually wasn't a period in which this country was profoundly affluent either. An awful lot of what you are seeing are items that have been cared for over a very long period of time. So this is a confident bit of display of our past. It's not actually, what you see in the Abbey is not actually a colossal display of contemporary spending.
Is there a risk that there's a lot of show here, but it's light on relevance for people?
Of course, I hear that conversation. The difficulty here is that there is actually deep meaning in an awful lot of what we do. We understand that. We live in an environment in which, for very good reasons, people no longer know the stories behind these things. So it's a shame, I think, that people will see things and not realise what the meaning always is. But if people can dig a little bit, there are interesting things being said and done.
You're going to be there at the most solemn part of the service, which is the anointing, one of the few who will actually see that happen. I just wonder, do you Do you personally believe that the king is being appointed by God?
No, and I don't really think that's quite nailing the language that we are using. What happens at an anointing? I'm a priest. I anoint babies at baptism, and I see candidates at confirmation being anointed. Clergy are anointed at their ordination. So this is much more to do with being set apart, a moment of focus. There's a particular role here. It's a concentration on that.
And for you personally, what will it mean being part of this? And tell me what you're wearing as well.
I'm wearing one of our copes, but it was a cope worn at the coronation of Charles II. So that's the 1660s. So that's quite exciting in Charles II, Charles III. For me, the day will be very busy. It'll be very focused. But in all of that, there are moments when the sheer deep seriousness and the history of it, I'm a historian, it is just spine-tingling.
You say spine-tingling because obviously we know William the Conqueror came here.
We do.
What does that mean to you, knowing that we've got this history, we've got the kings going way back, buried here?
So I know, as I stand just in front of the coronation chair, that just behind me, really just behind me, is the tomb of Edward I. It's his chair. It was made for him. Just behind me is Edward the Confessor. It was his church that Duke William came to in 1066. So there's all that resonance, all those echoes going on, deep roots.